被绑架了。
我现在不知道
我在哪里？我很害怕。他们说，
如果我给他们300万，他们就会一直打我。
我很害怕。他们还说，
如果报警就会撕票。
《红楼梦》的作者有一句话叫做“真作假来假亦真，假作真来真亦假”，就是假假真真，你没有法子分辨的。
The movement of the transaction, and then the withdrawal of the monies, the converting of the monies, he must have planned it.
There's nothing to even suggest that, that would be the last time I would ever see him.
他很认识他的周围的人，他会抓到他们的弱点来辖制他们。
一个欺骗信任他的身边人，一个向有钱客户下手，震惊司法界。
这一期的失城奇案不是一般的罪案现场，我们不是在寻找武器，也不是在寻找尸体。
老千靠变脸达到目的，说明人性什么样的弱点和黑暗面？欺诈得到什么，又失去什么？
我是真的很气他，就算他现在在牢里面，他出来，我看到他，我也会拉着他衣服，我也会想打他的。
70年代啊，曾经发生过一个叫做詹美黎票据公司的风波啦，将近5万人损失财物啦，没有报案的还有很多人啊，大概牵连啊有25万人这么多了。这个票据公司本来讲说，你只要把钱放进来，就有一些比较高的利息啦。过后啊，有一些人拿到啊，好像不大对版啊，数目不对。这个 Gemini 劫犯发生的时候，在这个劫犯公司附近啊，发现有人跳楼啊。那么是不是跟这个事件有直接关系？当然是没有明确的一个证实啦。法官形容这个是20世纪的大骗局，而且害到很多人家破人亡。
2018年5月，本地突然出现一位富豪，他才23岁。地产经纪说他是韩国富少，将继承爸爸的巨额家产。他想买一些优质的房地产。他叫朴俊炯。朴俊炯给每套房产2000万新元的预算。他看中价值550万元的豪宅，马上开出一张5万多元的支票，表明他要购买。他得到一份选购权书，可以在14天内执行买房选购权的绝对权利。处理地产交易的律师说，这是行内的惯常做法。
我是林迪福律师。这14天他有优先权，卖家呢，就是得保留这个屋子了。如果他这个人想要继续买的话呢，他就必须交多一个4%，总数就是5%啦。
一般人会用这14天去找房贷，朴俊炯却在3天内参观10多个豪宅，共选购至少7套公寓，总值1.4亿。别人会要求折扣，他却照价全收。
我是家庭与心理治疗师袁凤珠。我记得一个时候啊，很多的电影拍摄有钱人的家庭，媒体对这些出名人物特别的报道， 特别的放大，也会造成一种羡慕的心理。今天很多时候，社会使到有一些的人感觉到自己很没有价值，读书读不好，事业也做不好，就会造成他们就要用手段来成为成功的人。
2018年9月，做直销生意的周宏源跟阔别10几年的老同学重逢了。
我叫 Darren， 我今年28岁，我是 Gerard Low 受害者的之一。我们是中学同学，所以就跟他同班了2年。我很久没有跟 Gerard 联络了，他知道我在做这个multi-level marketing 的这个生意，突然间就 Facebook message 了我。他也有来过我们的 office 做 training 这些之类的。过后他就跟我成为了朋友。
周宏源的中学同学刘敬勇，买豪宅的朴俊炯，一个人2个角色，在一出戏的不同段落露脸，演出一场骗局。
他的穿法，他的 behavior 好像一个很成功的人。他的衣服，他喷的香水，这些东西我就有去 notice 到。
欺骗人有时候是为了个人自己的利益，可是骗久了会成为他的习惯，习惯就会成为他的性格。不需要骗的时候，他也是会说大话的。
每次要约他的时候，他就跟我说他的车在他的卡巴，所以要去拿他的车，可是根本都没有车。
先前韩国富少朴俊炯选购至少7套公寓，开出的支票总值约200万，但每一张都跳票。他告诉地产商，爸爸的钱需要多几天才会进入他的户头，但钱一直没有来，所以地产商取消所有交易。手上的公寓选购权书变成废纸，可是他会秀给别人看，参观公寓的录像也使人家以为他很成功。
他就会带我出去吃，带我出去玩。2到3个星期后 ，Gerald 就来问我有兴趣做他的生意伙伴吗？我是想做什么生意？他讲我想开一个泡泡茶店。我就想泡泡茶店，为什么无无端端的开泡泡茶店？他就说没有啦，因为他讲他有一笔钱，他就直接说我已经开了户口，那个 Accra 的 account。我就说那么快？我讲等一下，你说你开 Accra account 了，你要我签名，那你要我做什么？他就说我要你做我的生意伙伴，我要你当老板。他讲他每个月会给我 approximately5000到6000块，所以我就说哇，很好啊。为什么你这么信任我？他讲因为你是我好朋友嘛，我想要你成功。
My name is Jun Fong, and I'm a forensic psychologist. In Gerald's case, I think he was just very adept at preying on other people's vulnerabilities. He was able to align their goals with his. For instance, with his ex-classmate, Terrence, he knew that Terrence was working in an MLM business. Therefore, he presented himself as the perfect rookie who was able to leverage on his wealth and social connections to bring more business to Terrence.
联名注册了泡泡茶店，刘敬勇要求周宏源买手机和签配套。
他讲总共6条电话线。我讲为什么要6条？
他说他租下好几个办事处，每个办事处需要2台手机，而且要最贵的。
那为什么你电话你要拿到最好的嘞？可是那时候我没有什么怀疑那么多，因为我们就是说好朋友嘛，所以反正他又要我成功，我也要做个成功的人，我就说算了，我就给你做你应该做的东西，我听你的话就好。
有一类人，他们就是很会说话，他很认识 他的周围的人，他会抓到他们的弱点或者是优点来辖制他们。
6条电话线我都签，6架电话都交给他。
很可能这个 Gerald 的身上有一种辖制人的那一种身体语言，我们说 dominating spirit， 就是你看到他，你很自然就会被他控制，明知道是不大对，但是不敢说不。
刘敬勇拿走周宏源的6台手机，并邀请他一起物色店面。他很快就看中6个零售兼办公的空间。
我就觉得很多东西很古怪。你有钱吗？他讲有，他就有一个很嚣张的那个口气来说有，我很有钱，我里面有几百万，就说他的爸爸是什么一个成功的人啦，妈妈是什么人啦。
周宏源事后回想，惊觉刘敬勇跟中学时候简直是2个不同的人。
他的名字那时候叫丁威浩，他的人是比较近，他没有什么朋友，我们也没有什么跟他接触，就是就是他每天就来上学，放学他的妈妈就会接他回家，所以我也没有什么看到过他的爸爸过。我有这个朋友就告诉我，Terence 你要小心这个人 Gerald， 因为他不是什么好东西。所以那时候我就说，你可能只是想拆坏我们的这个朋友，你才是那个有阴谋的人。过后呢，我就想了很久，人生哪有这么好的事情？有人来找你，有人说要给你一笔钱，所以呢，我觉得我自己很烂。
周宏源跟刘敬勇合伙开泡泡茶店，买了6台名贵手机和签了配套。不过手机被刘敬勇拿去之后，生意就静悄悄的，完全没有动静。即使觉得奇怪，周宏源还是耐心的等。
我们就是说好朋友嘛，所以反正他又要我成功，我也要做个成功的人，我就说算了，我就给你做你应该做的东西，我听你的话就好。
As humans, most of us are quite conflict avoidant. Scams work better with friends and family. It's also because it deters detection. So research has shown that people are very afraid to confront their loved ones, to ask them, "Are you lying to me?"
好多被骗的，他们到了一个程度，内心深处是知道对方在玩弄他，在骗他的。可是呢，人一个最不好的状况就是不敢说不，因为自己的面子，还有内心一些的贪念。
后来2人撕破脸，是因为周宏源追问5、6千元的薪水怎么迟迟没有来。
我就跟他说：“你说钱在哪？”他就那一句话：“你在怀疑我。”我就跟他说：“对，我怀疑你，我怀疑你这些Accra 啦、公司啊这些东西都是骗局来的。”他就说：“这是你给我的态度吗 ？After all I done for you， 这是你给我的态度吗？”他就把我的名字在 Accra 里面拿掉。我又想了另外一件事，我的6条电话线是用我的 IC 签的，我要怎样去处理这些事情？我报了警，警察跟我说你有什么东西在他的手上的，他讲你第一件事情最重要的是要把6条电话线给割掉。
签了高级的配套，毁约费是一大笔钱。
那 一屁股债，已经要到10千了。
被他骗的人是因为相信他，他会专门找他很亲密的人、很相信他的人来下手。其实对我来说，真是很残忍的。
我还在上学嘛，最后我就是找了我的家人来帮我还这屁股债。我觉得我自己很烂，为什么会被骗？而且我还以为是老天爷给我的好运啊！那时候我就真的是很可悲，我不懂要怎么做。
So the victims, they keep asking themselves, why is it that I'm the one suffering? It upsets what we call a just world belief. Good things happen to good people, and bad things happen to bad people. But when bad things happen to good people, that sometimes lead the victims to think about, why is this happening to me?
刘敬勇利用别人想发达的心理，他更利用别人情感上的需要，以爱的名义来榨取对方。一位女性听信刘敬勇要跟她结婚，被骗6000多元，导致她精神病复发，必须送院。
In my experience, victims of love scams have emotional scars that last long after the scam has ended. And it's also very easy for bystanders to look upon the situation and think, I would never have done that. I would never be so stupid. So the victims of love scams are actually not just dealing with self-blame, but they also carry the burden and judgment from other people around them. Because it is true, sometimes the tactics of the scams are being used are only evident on hindsight. And it's easy to forget that some of these victims, that relationship that they had with the scammer is very real. And it may be the only thing that they have that is going well for them at that point in time.
时间倒退到2012年3月6日，另一起骗案震惊司法界。新加坡的司法界必须决定如何将740万以上的款项归还给律师诈骗案的56位受害者。
A Singaporean lawyer has disappeared with what's believed to be more than $10 million of his client's money. The sum is said
实际上，740万只是一部分，被骗走的总金额接近1133万，堪称新加坡最严重律师诈骗案之一。大卫·拉希是何方人物？曾因这个案件而被国际刑警通缉的他，来自普通家庭，出身平凡。
My name is Edmund Pereira. I'm a lawyer. Well, I first met David Rasif sometime in late 1990, perhaps, when he was a pupil in a firm. In 1992, I went on my own firm practice, and he joined me as a lawyer. Because his mother visited him, visited the office very often. And especially lunchtime, she'll bring food, and they would have lunch in the office, which I found was very nice.
入行不久，他以不凡的谈吐和强大的自信引起老板注意。
His personality, bubbly character, and he carries himself very well, very confident. With young lawyers, we have to supervise their work. And even in my presence, he would, tell the clients what would be the likely outcome of the case, and assuring them that if it's a criminal case, don't worry, you will only get a fine. And I had to stop him because there's no certainty on the outcome of the case, and rule number 1 is never assure a client of an outcome. Sometime later, one of the fellow members of the bar told me to listen, EP, keep an eye on this young chap. He's going around and talking with other lawyers that he's going to be a partner in your firm, and there's going to be a name change in the firm. The Pereira and Rasif, or Pereira Rasif. I was surprised. I was amused. I mean, there's no such thing. But I was mindful then. I think I had to be alert with him.
大卫·拉希有一种特质，让人感觉如沐春风，无法对他生气。
So my name is Shashi Nathan. I'm a criminal lawyer. I know David Rasif. He was a friend for many years. He was someone you wouldn't really forget. Larger than life, loud, funny. That he was incredibly talented.
How many roads have gone by?
He could sing, he could dance, and he was really the ultimate entertainer. He loved entertaining people, he loved making people laugh, he loved making people happy. And I remember that fondly about him.
1995年，大卫·拉希开设自己的律师事务所，连续11年一帆风顺。他迎娶大学的校园美后，育有3个漂亮女儿。就在2006年6月平常的一天，同行以为他去旅行，太太以为他去公干，他静静地失联了。
And we didn't even know where he had gone to, what he had done. Maybe he had just gone for another holiday. I recall meeting him with a group of other friends for dinner at a club in Singapore the night before. He was said to have disappeared. There was nothing particularly different about that night. I still remember him telling me about how he had come back from a holiday in Thailand. There's nothing to even suggest that, that would be the last time I would ever see him.
"在卷款逃走之前，大卫·拉希相识满天下。他很得客户的信任，没有什么可疑的小动作。2006年5月，美国富豪赞奇3世及妻子有意购买荷兰路的洋房，就把制银1000万元的支票交给大卫·拉希来办理手续。
我在1995年到1996年的时候，那时候有碰过 David， 他已经提交他的辞职信，就去自己设立自己的律师楼了。那对夫妇啊，他们把买房的总数都已经交给他的律师楼，因为他是个人，律师楼是由他自己一个人签名。所以他拿得出那笔现款。
很少人知道，大卫·拉希承接富豪这笔生意的时候，正因为涉嫌参与祖屋交易欺骗案而受调查。他失踪之前，一连3天从客户户头提取超过1132万元，其中200万元用来买珠宝，165万买了47块金条。交给同谋黄义明来处理，98万5千元交给同谋林顺强在越南洗钱。他开了一家空壳公司，400万元汇入这家公司在香港的银行户头。他这么做是为了混淆视听，使执法单位难以追踪和起回赃款。有报章报道，总共7个人被涉及。2006年6月5号，事务所的职员找不到老板，他们发现客户户头的一大笔钱不翼而飞。当时大卫·拉希跟太太去了曼谷，他告诉太太，他得续程到东京去见客户，之后就人间蒸发了。
Did he plan the escape? The movement of the transaction. And then the withdrawal of the monies, and then the next step is the converting of the monies, and then you have to transfer the funds. So I think all this would have taken some planning, definitely.
He was a well-established lawyer with his own practice. He was well known in the community. that gives him credibility in the bank without having to work for it. People trusted him with their financial affairs.
People will obviously look at what he's alleged to have done. I make no comment or judgment on him because I really don't know. I know a little bit about the facts of the case, but again, I'm not involved in the case. But it's a shame. It's a shame. I tell you why it's a shame also, because people often ask, why would somebody run away? Why would you give up everything you have and run away unless you've done something wrong?
And I was disappointed, sad also for him. I mean, if it was a case of him assuring the client of an outcome and then there was a complaint, then I can understand, because I've seen that in him. But we hold the profession, we carry the profession with this degree of trust. And the public look to lawyers. This had happened. Maybe he was desperately in need of money. I do not know the circumstances. But what he did left an indelible mark, in the profession.
大卫拉希卷走近1133万元，数目令人啧舌，以至于他的名字出现在当年的国际刑警通缉名单上。这笔钱90%以上属于美国富商赞奇3世夫妇，他们起诉珠宝行和珠宝行老板，要求归还卖珠宝给大卫拉希所收到的钱。
My name is Melanie Ho. My main areas of practice would be general litigation and white-collar crime. The victims approached and we formed a team to assist the victims to recover as much as possible. We were one of the firms at that time that assisted with the civil action. The other step that we took was a close liaison with the commercial authorities of Singapore. So there would be cash recovery by way of the lawsuit. There would be cash recovery from the freeze orders in foreign bank accounts.
2006年，大卫拉希的受害人还有办法知道是谁骗了他们。到了今天，不少受害人被谁骗都不知道，他们陷入的是网络骗局。所谓的律师是捏造出来的。
越来越多冒充律师或假的律师事务所的网站，以及假借律师的电邮向网民发动钓鱼骗局。
从2021年到2022年，本地诈骗案和网络罪案增加25%，接近33700宗。
以前的骗案是你看得到，那么骗子就出现在你面前。那么现在的网络骗案呢，是我把它形容为隐形的敌人啊，隐形的骗子，隐形的老千啊，林林总总啊，无孔不入啊。
我是方少宇，在新加坡，我为多过300个公司负责管理和保护他们的数据，做他们的数据保护官，也是管理他们的网络安全。随着技术的发展，诈骗的世界越来越复杂，诈骗者的机会也更加了很多。
为提高公众对网络诈骗的认识，方少宇常运用一个软件来示范，骗子怎样在几分钟内伪造大机构的电邮，以套取别人的机密资料。
As simple as keying in a few web form fields, putting in the recipient or the victim's email address, creating any content that they want. For example, they would normally request for urgent payment and an updated bank account details. And simply clicking of a button. Now I'm about to show one example, which is IRAS phishing. They clone the website. Right, so any unsuspecting victim who didn't check, double check, key in their SingPass and password, log in, provide an OTP as well. The scammer or hacker would have essentially stolen your SingPass credentials. You may be expecting an incoming parcel. You may have done some recent online shopping. So by clicking on the link or the button in the email, you will be redirected to a very Similar website to Singapore Post. Pay attention to the text. You can see it's not our local format. Right? Again, for unsuspecting victims, if they fill in their names, address, email, click the proceed to payment button and input their credit card details. The hackers or scammers are not going after the small amount they're charging you, but rather to steal your personal information to further scam you thereafter.
如果大卫拉希不是在2006年行骗，而是在2023或2024年行骗，他会有更多行骗的方式。
As more AML laws, anti-money laundering laws are set up, transference of large amounts of monies is closely tracked now, right? Cross-border, across banks. So it may be possible that he can use cryptocurrencies to continue scamming victims if he's doing so.
Okay, if I got a call out of the blue from David, I would ask him how he was. I might be careful about asking him where he was and also ask him why he wanted to speak to me.
"一下假扮韩国富少，用作废文件来蒙骗下一个受害者；一下又用虚假的友情和爱情来满足自己对钱的贪欲。
这个人是有阴谋的。我觉得我自己很烂，为什么会被骗？
刘进勇诈骗的款项超过15万，其中近1万是周宏元的血汗钱。周宏元的家人凑钱帮他一把。
我的父母亲、我的奶奶、我的表哥们都跟我说，振作起来，不要再责怪自己了。可是那时候我就是听不进去，我就是一直责怪自己。
2022年3月8号，刘进勇在住家楼下被逮捕。警方到他和母亲租下的祖屋搜集证据，屋子脏乱不堪。
I mean, I'm not personally involved with Gerald's case, so it's hard to come to any firm conclusions about what this means in terms of his mental state. However, his house, it was filled with garbage, used tissues, used face masks. He's not even meeting that basic level of hygiene. It might suggest that he's someone who lives in the moment and doesn't really bother about the consequences of his actions.
现场凌乱固然增加搜证的难度，不过数码法证科学还是有办法分析电子证据，剖丝抽茧，重建罪案现场。
这一起的失城奇案不是一般的罪案现场，我们不是在寻找武器，不是在寻找血迹，也不是在寻找尸体。
但是，类似于典型罪案现场的勘查，数码取证还是要进行法证科学处理，这就包括防护、鉴别、记录和采集的过程。
我们要寻找的证据都是一样的：人物、地点、时间和发生什么事情。
对于 Gerald Low 刘进勇的案件，大部分的证据是聊天记录、电子交易记录。
首先来说这笔记本电脑吧，在这一个软件中，我们会做一份拷贝，然后进行分析。我们能够看到一些资料，比如短信、文档、图案、联络人、电邮地址和电话号码等等。
那如果这些文件被删除了，我们是否还找得到这些证据呢？
如果一个文件被隐藏、加密，甚至被删除，我们还是能够用软件查看这些证据。我们在这里就可以看到被删除的电邮往来、通信和搜寻记录等。在第二个软件中，我们还可以检索各种应用程序上的 通信和通话记录。
获取了这些信息，当局就能够根据不同的警方报告和对他的投诉证实事件的顺序。在一个不太合作的嫌疑人的案件中，数码证据更是至关重要的。
近年，网络骗案错用人工智能助纣为虐。
我是Vincent Goh，之前主要是在银行和一些金融机构里面负责IT 系统的设置、研发还有项目管理。聊天机器人，我们叫 Chatbot， 也有可能背后是由 AI 在驱动受害者误认为他们正在跟真人在沟通、在聊天，这将使到他们放松他们的警惕。结果呢，他们就会被引导去点击一些恶意的链接，或者是提供更多的个人信息或者数据。骗子可以冒充我说过一段话，发给我周边的朋友、同事，来欺骗他们。我用这张几年前在日本大阪旅游时拍的一张照片，原本这是一张静态的照片。我只是上传了我预先录制的一段话，通过这样简单的一个软件，就生成了这样一个 deepfake 的视频。Bird Paradise is Singapore's new bird park。
深度伪造还有第二种方法。
这一次我不用我预先录制好的语音，我就用打字的方式打出一段话来，点这个键去生成一个 deepfake 的视频。
AI technology will bring great benefits to people. It can also be used for cheating.
When it's too good to be true, as they say, it probably is.
时刻留意新闻，保持警惕，了解当今社会上有哪一些跟AI 技术相关的骗局。
Always be wary. Okay, always verify independently as well.
往往聪明反被聪明误，就是越聪明的人可能越容易上当。所以在这个网络世界里面讲求快速里面不要自作聪明宁可动作慢一点，想深一点。
无论在虚拟或现实的世界，我们都有各自的心魔要面对。周宏元上当之后，大概花了半年来处理情绪。
2020年的时候，Gerald 要被 charge 的时候，有这个法庭、这个日期、这个时间，可是我要去听吗？我不要去听，因为我跟自己说，我不想再见到这个人。
刘敬勇宣称，他骗钱是因为家人需要钱来治病。辩护律师提出，他自小父母离异，还有各种精神和行为障碍的问题。心理卫生学院评估了，却认为他的病况跟干案没有直接关联。刘敬勇服刑期间，母亲癌症去世，他没能见他最后一面。自己的所作所为，完全不值得。
It's not worth it. This is very different from someone, for instance, who has been diagnosed with what we call psychopathy, who has callous, unemotional traits and lack of remorse for what they have done.
他讲进去牢里面不值得，对啊，根本不值得啊！你骗了这么多人，你觉得很值得没？就算他现在在牢里面，他出来，我看到他，我也会拉着他衣服，我也会想打他的。可是，值得吗？过后呢，我就慢慢的发现到，最重要的、最主要的是，我要好好的做人，把我自己给振作起来，不要想这些可悲的东西，继续过我的生活，那继续做个好人咯。
2006年，卷款1000万元的律师大卫·拉希，在失踪15个月之后，被最高法院批准除名，失去他的律师资格。 他的妻子在他失踪4个月之后申请离婚，获判3个女儿的抚养权。
In the early years that I knew him, I used to bump into David quite a few weekends at Holland Village, and he was always with his 3 young daughters. What struck me at that time was how wonderful a father he was. And from the way the daughters looked at him, looked up to him, to me it looked like they adored him. And he came across as really a wonderful, wonderful father. Anyone, him or anyone, we've made a mistake, you know, there's a price and a consequence for that mistake. That must have been so difficult. Putting aside other things like money and your business, to give up 3 girls who, at least to me, it was a parent that he really loved and adored. I can imagine it would have been an extremely difficult and painful decision for him.
大卫·拉希诈骗近1133万元，当局最终起回740万，约总额的60%。在56个索偿人中，美国富商赞奇3世夫妇得以拿回600多万。警方逮捕大卫·拉希的同谋，发现多数金条原封不动。
The police went to the premises of the accomplice, and as he was carrying the gold bars out with a roll-on luggage, he was arrested. And when they opened the bag, I think they found a good proportion of the gold bars.
有关当局取回40块金条，金价这些年上涨不少，足以抵消被害人部分的损失。
一个人他想要成为成功人物，这就是人之常情。现代人都不是傻子，是不能够欺骗的。欺骗只是暂时的。一个真正成功的人，以诚恳来经营他的生意，他们反而能够成功到老。
People make mistakes because they are humans, not because they are a lawyer or doctor or any other profession. The profession encapsulates the parameters of your job, your duty. But things like greed, avarice, desire, these are human frailties. So it can happen in anybody. If I got a call out of the blue from David, I would be happy to receive the call because I liked him as a friend. I liked him as a person. I would ask him how he was. I might be careful about asking him where he was. I'd also ask him why he wanted to speak to me. But I would be prepared to help him. Because my belief is that whatever he is said to have done, whatever other people think, he deserves a defense, he deserves representation. So I would be happy to represent him if he asks for it.
大卫·拉希一案促使政府修改律师处理房地产买卖款项的方式。
超过5000块的话呢，必须要有2个律师来签名。可是很不幸的就是说，之后呢，也有一些不老实的律师，也跑掉巨款了。
You need 2 signatories. So any amount, if you're going to withdraw 5,000, perhaps then it's okay. But if you're going to withdraw a bigger amount from the firm, then you need 2 signatories. So that is the arrangement you can make with the bank. So then these are measures that have been put in place by the Law Society.
.你可以通过 Medicine 应用程序、Spotify 或 Apple Podcast 收听更多真实奇案。